Arsenal versus Liverpool at the Emirates yesterday ending 1-1 with a talking point coming out of the game, which I'm not going to dive in right now. But there's a few points that I'd like to actually cover in this review here. Firstly, I want to speak about the first 20 minutes of the game. Let's just say in the first 5 minutes or 10 minutes, Liverpool had a bit of the ball. Arsenal also had a bit of the ball. With both teams just trying to wrestle control over that first 10 minutes. Arsenal then got on top within that first 30 minutes. There were a few encouraging signs which I thought, okay, Arsenal were in their groove around that time, and it's looking like that Arsenal were going to put one at the back of the net, but which didn't actually happen. And within that 20 to 30 minute spell, Bukayo Saka on the right hand side, Arsenal did actually work the ball to him a few times, whereby he had one-on-one with Kerkers. He was able to beat him a few times, get the ball into the net. There was one whereby he beat him. He beat McAllister too, got to the byline, but the cutback was just not finding anyone. It's just a cutback with everyone literally running near post rather than someone trying to hold their run just in case it falls into the penalty spot. And I think the game plan from Arsenal was to find their fullbacks, in particularly on the right-hand side, Yuri Timber in the half spaces. Even though Liverpool allowed Arsenal centre-backs to actually have majority of the ball. I kid you not, I'm not sure how many minutes Saliba and Gabriel actually had the ball in that first half, whereby they were just passing into each other, trying to find a way through Liverpool's defensive shape. Which I think Liverpool actually had a good game plan in terms of their defensive shape. They went man-to-man across the pitch, even though they decided to let Arsenal centre-backs actually have the ball, which gave Saliba a few chances to actually step forward with the ball and play through Yuri Timber. Again, Arsenal trying to find their fullbacks, especially Yuri Timber in the half spaces. Yuri Timber got in a few times with a pass by William Saliba in between Virgil van Dijk and Kerkers. And I think the only thing that was lacking was just that final pass, like the killer ball from Yuri Timber, even though he was able to get down the sides a few times. Like the crosses, sometimes he'll clip the ball back post with no one there. Sometimes the crosses will get blocked, which is good defending by Liverpool. But I think that's where Arsenal were finding a bit more of a joy. But one additional point, it was a very flat sort of performance from the Arsenal midfield three. And I think they ran out of legs. That again might be to the fact that they played against Bournemouth away, which was a very high intensity game. And they've literally started all Arsenal Premier League games during like the festive season, bar one where Rice couldn't really play due to a knee injury. So I think that actually caught up to them, especially in the second half, whereby Arsenal could not even get close to Liverpool's midfielders. Liverpool's midfielders were controlling the game, pulling it down, folding the ball around, grabbing bench, McAllister, Vets playing as the false nine, Szoboszlai getting a foothold of the game, detecting play from that side. Even though Liverpool had no shots on target, they still controlled the game, which and with that they were able to keep the ball away from Arsenal's midfield three. Odegaard, who is always leading the press, could not get anywhere near Liverpool's midfielders. Rice and Zubimendi had to literally hold their shape a bit more, making sure that there were no spaces in between them. And that was all because Liverpool were actually on top of the game at that point. And Arsenal were forced to making a sub early on in the second half with Miles Lewis-Kelly having to come on for Hincapié. And I think because of how Frimpong was beating Miles Lewis-Kelly a few times, Arsenal had to drop off a little bit, which made sense during that time of the game. And I think we struggled to wrestle back any sort of control in that second half. And with that in mind, I was sat there watching the game thinking, how is Arteta going to wrestle back control from Liverpool? Is he going to change the game from the bench? Well, we do have some very good players on the bench. But if he brings on Eze is not good, especially with pressing or doing the defensive work rate as Martin Odegaard, who is basically running out of legs in the phase of the game. But even then, will he be able to control the game for us from number 10? So he's not that good at it as Martin Odegaard. And we couldn't actually change our midfield dynamic by taking off a holding midfielder and bringing on Mikel Moreno, because then Moreno is not as good on the ball as Mendy. And Eze will not be controlling the pace of the game for us from that number 10 slot. Even though he came in for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, he didn't really get into the game or didn't really do much either. So it was a very sort of a tactical dilemma from Arteta's point of view. And some Arsenal fans are calling Arteta out to the extent that he made subs, or he wasn't brave with subs and making like-for-like subs, even though that's not the case, because Eze is different from Odegaard. Martinelli is different from Trossard. You know what I mean? Noni, who you could say is similar to Saka, but they both play different games. With that in mind, with Arsenal already losing the battle in the midfield, it just wouldn't have made sense for us to change that midfield. It just wouldn't have made sense for us to change anything in the midfield, because what we needed the most was controlling a game. And I believe the players actually worked that out within that spell that Liverpool were dominating the ball, to actually drop off, because you could not come out of your shape to go press alone or to chase the ball alone, because the Liverpool could have just picked you off. And I think that actually made sense for us to be very more risk-averse in terms of our pressing. And that actually leads me on to say there's a bit of a maturity in Arsenal's gameplay, or in Arsenal's players realizing that in that part of the game, or in that point of the game, they adapted to the situation whereby they realized that they couldn't get anywhere near Liverpool at that time. And the best bet was to sit back a little bit. Even though Mikel Arteta on the sideline was pushing them on to press, they did not really want to push up that much. And I think it made sense, because obviously at that time, as Luis Kelly was struggling to on that side. All in all, I think a point is a point. And if anyone was to tell me that at the start of this new year, Arsenal were going to be 6 points above the nearest title challenger, I would have bitten their hand off. So I'm really trying to restrain from over-analyzing this one game, and basically just put it down as one of these games where you just have to take it on the chin and say, we can get a point, so let's take the point and move on to the next game. One thing that I also wanted to say is that, yes, majority of Arsenal fans came into this game with the expectation that we were going to beat Liverpool, based or due to where Liverpool are right now as a team. But they came into the game unbeaten in 10. And we need to bear in mind, this Liverpool side also got quality players, regardless of how they've been performing this season. They got very good players at the back. They still have Virgil van Dijk, their keeper Alisson, in the midfield, Frio, that actually played well yesterday. This is the first time I've seen McAllister actually had a good game this season. Gravenberch had a good game. Vets actually had a good game playing as a false nine, even though they basically had nothing from Cody down that left-hand side, because Yuri Timber had him on lock all day. But all in all, I think it was a better display defensively from both teams. You know, with Liverpool actually having most of the ball in that second half, they had no shot on target either way. Yeah, so what I would say is, yeah, like kudos to both teams with their defensive display. I was very much surprised with the way Liverpool actually approached the game, especially in the first half when Arsenal were on top. You know, sitting in a bank of 6, because obviously you're in Timber and Henkapi were drifting infield, because Liverpool do man-on-man marking around the pitch. So Cody Gakpo and Frimpong were basically tracking Arsenal's fullbacks whenever they came infield, which made sense. Let's move on to the biggest talking point from the game, since we literally have nothing else to talk about in the game. The incident between Gabriel Martinelli and Conor Bradley. Firstly, I'm going to come out and say I'm very disappointed with the media narrative, especially Gary Neville, where he made a comment post-match saying the Liverpool players, and I'm paraphrasing here, the Liverpool players should go whack Martinelli and get a red card because of what happened. And I think the only person that had common sense with the situation was Arne Slot. The only person that used common sense, because he was asked in the post-game press conference about the incident, and this is basically what he said. I don't know Gabriel Martinelli, but he comes across as a nice guy. I think the problem for him, and it's a problem in general in football, is that there is much time wasted in players pretending that they are injured in the final parts of the game and during the game, that you can sometimes be annoyed if you want to try and score a goal that you think the player is time wasting. You cannot ask Martinelli to think so clear in the 94th minute. This is basically what Arne Slot said, and I 100% agree with it. This is something the likes of Gary Neville, Roy Keane, who are on Sky Sports, basically saying it was a disgrace that Martinelli did that, should have actually had in their mind. In the heat of a moment, as that, you're going to tell me most of the players do not, or majority of players do not try and time waste around that time. Granted, in hindsight is always 2020, because you'll be like, oh, okay, maybe, you know what I mean, I should have done this. Because in the heel moment, myself, watching the game from home, didn't even think Bradley was injured. I just thought he was just trying to waste a bit of time just to stop the momentum from Arsenal. Because you need to bear in mind, he came off the pitch, rode back on, and then when all of the pushing and badging were going on is when I actually clocked, you know, this guy is actually injured. But you know what? After all, let's bear in mind that Martinelli has actually apologized to Bradley, and I'm wishing him a speedy recovery. Well, I'm hoping it's not a long-term injury, but it did look bad, especially with a non-contact injury like that. You could see that his knee buckled as he slipped on the turf. So I'm wishing him a speedy recovery. The last point, or in the last part of this review that I actually wanted to cover, this is for the negative Arsenal fans. You guys need to chill out. You need to chill out after every single draw or loss. You come out of your shells, back on Arteta's case again, because every single thing, or every single time we draw or lose, is down to Arteta. Are you trying to tell me that the players have no responsibility on the pitch? And one thing you need to refrain from doing is to overanalyze in one game, because this is basically a one-off game. I've seen Man City not beat Liverpool during their title, or during when City were dominating the league, winning titles. They didn't beat Liverpool that season, but they still went on to actually win the trophy, even though Liverpool were their closest title challengers. Yes, you could say that, yes, they beat Arsenal when they also won the league. But prior to this season, Arsenal had not lost a game against the top six. And yet we still did not win the league. So let's calm down. Let's chill out. The only thing left is that our next game, Arsenal's next game I should say, is against Portsmouth, away in the FA Cup on a Sunday afternoon, 2 p.m. kickoff. I would like Arsenal to get to the final of this competition as well. Yes, I'm greedy, but I want Arsenal to win this competition as well. And the only thing I'm looking forward to is a good performance from the Gunners and a win. Then we move on to the next game.
Take the yards!